Hello again. Welcome to another grammar video for Unit 3, Blue Reading and Listening. In this lesson, we're going to talk about comparative adjectives. Let's take a look. So for this lesson, you'll need to know what an adjective is. You'll need to know what a syllable is, as well as vowels and consonants. You'll also need to remember what consonant, vowel, consonant spelling patterns are. Again, if you don't know these things, that's okay. Take a moment to pause the video, look up the answers, and then come back. So in this lesson, again, we're going to talk about why we use comparative adjectives, how to make comparative adjective sentences, as well as some irregular comparative adjectives. So to review, for those that have studied syllables before, you'll remember that a syllable is how many vowel sounds there are in a word. This is really important to know when we talk about comparative adjectives. So some examples, adjectives like shy, tall, and short, well, these have one vowel sound, so they're one syllable. Happy, ugly, boring, two vowel sounds, so we have two syllables. Amazing, beautiful, terrible, all have three syllables. Finally, incredible, American, all have four syllables. So in English, we use comparative adjectives to compare nouns. Again, you'll remember from previous units that we use the be verb to compare things or to describe something. So we have some examples to look at. Here we have three men, or boys, Scott, Preston, and Greg. When we compare them, we can write sentences like, Greg is taller than Preston and Scott. Preston is shorter than Greg. Preston is taller than Scott. Scott is shorter than Preston and Greg. Again, tall and short are one-syllable adjectives. Now, look at the sentences. Pause the video. Can you figure out the rule for comparative adjectives? So for one-syllable adjectives, to make the comparative, we need to add er to the end of the adjective and then write than. Be careful, that's than with an A, not an E. If the adjective ends with an E, you only need to add an R. Another rule to remember, if the adjective ends in consonant, vowel, consonant spelling pattern, you must double the last consonant and add ER. So here we have a list of one-syllable adjectives. So fast in the comparative becomes faster than. Shy becomes shyer than. Close becomes closer than. And big becomes bigger than. Thin becomes thinner than. If we have a two-syllable adjective that ends in Y, you have to drop the Y, change to I, and add ER to form the comparative. Here you have a long list of two-syllable adjectives that end in Y. Pause the video, take a moment to review their comparative forms. Practice writing some sentences using them in a comparative. So for adjectives with two or more syllables and do not end in Y, you'll need to include the words more or less plus the adjective followed by than to form the comparative. Again, we have a long list here on the chart. Take a look and note, we do not add ER when we include more or less than. You'll need to remember this. Now, in the comparative, we have a few adjectives that are irregular. Again, irregular means they do not follow the rules of grammar. In some cases, the word may change completely. For example, we have the adjective good. To form the comparative, you'll need to write better than. For bad, you'll need to write worse than. And fun, in the comparative, is more fun than, not with an ER. Again, we have some examples here. I think that Maestro's Pizza is better than Domino's. The first Star Wars movie was bad, but the second movie was worse. I think English is more fun to study than math. I think math is less fun to study than English. So now, finally, the last rule for the comparative adjectives. If we already know the object that we're comparing, or if the subject and object of comparison are the same, we don't need to write than. Here are some examples. Bill is very tall. Jim is taller. Again, in this example, because I know I'm comparing Jim to Bill, I don't need to write than. The weather is getting hotter. In this example, again, we're comparing the weather to weather in the past. So the subject and object of comparison are the same. So we don't need to write than. Always remember, if you don't see an object, you don't need to write than. Now, let's take a practice quiz. As always, pause the video, select an answer for each question. Once you've finished all the questions, hit the play button and we'll talk about your answers. Question 1. Saudi Arabia blank Bahrain. So here we have two objects we want to compare. First, we need a verb. We're talking about Saudi Arabia, so we can use is. Now we're talking about the size. We have the comparative adjective big. Okay, we know that big has a consonant vowel consonant spelling pattern, so we'll need to double the G and add ER plus than. So B is the correct answer. Question 2. My score in orange was good, but my score in blue is going to be blank. Again, we're talking about our grade in blue, and we want it to be higher than orange. So we know we're talking about better, A. Question 3. July in Saudi Arabia blank than January. So here, again, we need a verb. We need the be verb is, because we're talking about July in Saudi Arabia. Also, we have the adjective hot. To form the comparative, we have consonant, vowel, consonant. So we'll need to double the T and add ER. We already have then, so B is the correct answer. Question 4. Flying to Dubai is blank driving. Here we have the verb is, so we only need the comparative adjective. You'll remember that adjectives with two syllables and end in Y, we drop the Y, add I, ER, plus than, so D is the correct answer. Question 5. I don't like my iPhone 3. I need a phone that blank. So in this sentence, I need a phone that, we know we need a verb. We're talking about a phone, so we can use is. iPhone 3, that's pretty old, so I probably want a new phone. Again, we have new, one syllable, so we can add ER to form the comparative. And I know I'm comparing a new phone to my phone, the iPhone 3, so I don't need to include than. So C is the correct answer. Question 6. Hummus is delicious, but kabsa is blank. So in this sentence, we're comparing kabsa to hummus. We have a verb. We want to use the adjective delicious. Well, delicious has more than two syllables, so we'll need more or less than. A is the correct answer. Also remember, we don't need than because we have hummus and kabsa. We know the comparison. That's it for this lesson. I hope it was useful. Class dismissed.